What happens when a cartoon looks innocent, yet hides something far darker under the surface? These are the animated shows that slipped past Watchdog's network censors and even parents who believed they were safe. Today we uncover the oddities, nightmares, and adult themes that somehow made it into children's programming. Welcome to 15 Not for Kids, Cartoons That Escaped Detection. Number 15, Ren and Stimpy Fire Dogs, Episode 1992. Ren and Stimpy was already infamous for pushing boundaries, but Fire Dogs stands out as one of the earliest cases where Nickelodeon aired content that was shockingly inappropriate for children. On the surface, the episode looks like a chaotic firehouse adventure. But beneath the slapstick humor lies a stream of surreal body distortion, adult-toned jokes, and unsettling visuals that no Saturday morning lineup should have approved. The premise follows Ren and Stimpy joining the local fire brigade, leading to exaggerated training sequences and bizarre gags that border on grotesque. The characters are stretched, twisted, crushed, and reshaped in ways that triggered complaints, even back then. Critics later noted that the episode leaned heavily into adult-themed humor hidden under the guise of cartoon slapstick. The controversy grew when parents noticed the episode's disturbing imagery and suggested implications that made it feel far more adult than kid-friendly. Nickelodeon received letters from concerned viewers baffled at how the Standards and Practices Department allowed the content to air. Behind the scenes, animators admitted they often smuggled in jokes meant for adults, knowing censors only skimmed for the most obvious issues. As a result, Fire Dogs became infamous not for its comedy, but for being one of the earliest cases of a, quote, kid show, unquote, slipping past television gatekeepers. Today, it is remembered as a cautionary tale of how chaotic creative freedom can overshadow responsible broadcasting. Number 14, Rocko's Modern Life Leaprogs, Episode 1993. Rocko's Modern Life was known for its edgy humor, but Leaprogs is the episode that truly crossed boundaries. The plot centers on Mrs. Bighead inviting Rocko over in a storyline meant to parody classic domestic melodramas. Yet the jokes and situations it presents are unmistakably adult-toned and wildly inappropriate for a children's show. The premise follows Rocko trying to politely avoid the increasingly suggestive advances from Mrs. Bighead. The scenes mirror tropes seen in grown-up comedies, but are played straight enough that many parents were stunned such content aired on Nickelodeon. While Rocko remains oblivious, viewers quickly understood the underlying implications. Controversy erupted when watchdog groups replayed scenes pointing out how overt the adult themes actually were. Networks pulled the episode from rotation after receiving backlash. This was not a case of subtle humor. It was a fully grown-up storyline hidden inside a show marketed to kids. Behind the scenes, writers admitted they included jokes that were meant to amuse adults forced to watch with their kids, assuming censors would allow anything that was not explicit. The risk paid off until public outrage forced Nickelodeon to quietly distance the show from its most provocative episode. Leaprogs remains notorious as the moment Rocko's Modern Life went too far. Number 13, Animaniacs, Various Segments, 1993. Animaniacs was bright, hyperactive, and outwardly silly, yet beneath the surface, it was packed with humor clearly aimed at adults. Many segments included hidden meanings, visual metaphors, and wordplay that younger viewers would never understand. Though the show aired during children's programming hours, it operated like a sketch comedy show designed for grown-ups. The premise of each episode varied, but the pattern remained the same. The writers stuffed scripts with layered jokes that often referenced pop culture, politics, and adult themes. Moments slipped past censors because the delivery was fast, chaotic, and disguised within slapstick rhythms. The controversy grew as parents began noticing questionable jokes circulating online. Classic examples include exaggerated flirtation parodies, suggestive object metaphors, and lines that became infamous once fans revisited the show as adults. Each of these moments proved Animaniacs mastered the art of hiding adult humor in plain sight. Behind the scenes, writers proudly admitted they pushed the envelope, intentionally sneaking questionable lines past censors who could not keep up with the rapid-fire pacing. The aftermath cemented the show as a cult classic beloved not just for nostalgia, but for its rebellious approach to children's animation. Animaniacs remains a landmark in how far a kid's cartoon could go without being stopped. Number 12. Tiny Toon Adventures. One Beer Episode. 1991. Tiny Toon Adventures was meant to be a cleaner, younger take on the Looney Tunes spirit, but One Beer became one of the most shocking missteps in children's animation history. The premise shows Buster Babs and Plucky experimenting with alcohol, which spirals into chaotic, drunken antics that escalate until the trio steal a car and drive off a cliff. The episode was created as a parody of after-school specials designed to teach kids about the dangers of alcohol, but its graphic approach and dark ending shocked viewers. The humor was exaggerated, yet the tone felt disturbingly real, especially when broadcast to an audience of young children who were not prepared for the grim resolution. Controversy exploded instantly. Parents demanded explanations from the network. Censors scrambled to justify their oversight. The episode was pulled almost immediately and rarely aired again. Critics called it one of the most irresponsible animated episodes ever released under the guise of children's programming. Behind the scenes, the creators defended their intentions, arguing they wanted to show consequences in a dramatic way. But the backlash overshadowed the message entirely. Today, One Beer is remembered not as a lesson, but as a case study in how good intentions can take a shocking turn when presented in a cartoon format. Number 11. Courage, the Cowardly Dog, Freaky. Fred, Episode 2000. Courage, the Cowardly Dog thrived on surreal horror, but Freaky Fred pushed the show into territory that felt far too disturbing for kids. The episode introduces Fred, a smiling, soft-spoken character whose obsession with cutting hair is portrayed in chilling atmospheric scenes. While nothing explicit is shown, the psychological tension is unmistakable. The premise traps Courage in a house with Fred, whose calm, rhyming monologues slowly reveal his unsettling past. The episode plays with horror tropes, leaning into dread rather than comedy. Many viewers reported that Freaky Fred scared them more than entire horror films. Controversy arose as parents questioned why such dark psychological themes aired during a children's block. The eerie tone, Fred's obsession, and the claustrophobic sequences pushed the boundaries of what TV networks considered acceptable. Behind the scenes, animators confirmed they wanted to explore horror more deeply than other kids' shows dared. The creative push succeeded artistically, but caused headaches for standards and practices, who received waves of complaints afterward. Freaky Fred is now one of the most infamous episodes in children's TV history, remembered for traumatizing an entire generation, despite technically containing no graphic content. Number 10. SpongeBob SquarePants. Sailor Mouth Episode 2001. SpongeBob SquarePants was known for its chaotic charm, but Sailor Mouth pushed its luck with Censors when it introduced the idea of forbidden words disguised through beeps. On the surface, it appeared to be a harmless lesson about language, but the episode leaned heavily into the humor of characters gleefully repeating censor bleeps in public spaces. The premise begins when SpongeBob discovers a graffiti message behind the Krusty Krab containing a word he does not understand. Patrick claims it is a fancy sentence enhancer, a joke designed for adults who instantly understood the implication. Soon, the characters begin dropping bleeped words everywhere, turning the town into a chaotic soundscape of implied profanity. Controversy erupted when parents realized the episode encouraged curiosity about forbidden language rather than discouraging it. Many viewers complained that younger children began imitating the joke by loudly repeating beeps at home. Some broadcasters even questioned how such a concept made it into a children's show. Behind the scenes, writers admitted they wanted to parody how sitcoms used censorship bleeps for humor. The idea worked too well, and the episode became a lightning rod for parental backlash. Today, Sailor Mouth is remembered as one of the wildest moments SpongeBob managed to slip past censors before the show's content guidelines tightened. Number 9. The Powerpuff Girls. Tough Love Episode 1999. The Powerpuff Girls was famous for mixing superhero action with playful comedy. But Tough Love shocked many fans with its unusually dark tone. The episode features the entire city of Townsville falling under a sinister spell that compels residents to relentlessly attack the girls, creating a bleak, apocalyptic scenario that felt too intense for younger audiences. The premise unfolds when a villain manipulates Townsville's citizens, turning friends, neighbors, and even mentors against the Powerpuff Girls. Scenes of betrayal overwhelm the usual bright style of the show. Children watched beloved characters suddenly turn hostile in ways that felt psychologically heavy for a series aimed at young viewers. Controversy spread as parents noted how frightening the episode's themes were. The imagery of citizens with vacant eyes marching toward the girls, combined with desperate pleas for help, created a startlingly grim atmosphere. Critics argued the tone resembled dystopian fiction more than children's animation. Behind the scenes, animators revealed they wanted to test emotional boundaries by showing what happens when heroes lose the support of the world around them. The darkness was intentional, but even the creators admitted they underestimated how strongly younger viewers would react. Tough Love remains one of the most intense episodes in the show's history, remembered for leaving kids unsettled long after it aired. Number 8. The Simpsons Early Seasons, 1989 to 1994. When The Simpsons debuted, it arrived disguised as a simple family cartoon, yet it contained themes and jokes geared toward adults from the very beginning. Violence, social satire, and jokes that challenged authority appeared in nearly every episode. While marketed as family entertainment, many storylines were far too mature for young viewers who tuned in expecting lighthearted humor. The premise of the early seasons leaned into dysfunctional family dynamics, including arguments, emotional outbursts, and depictions of adult behavior rarely shown in other animated shows aimed at kids. Characters drank, fought, and engaged in schemes that mirrored the complexities of real-life problems. The controversy emerged when parent groups realized their children were absorbing content that resembled primetime sitcom satire rather than educational cartoon programming. Critics accused the show of negatively influencing young viewers. Some schools even banned Simpsons merchandise, believing the humor encouraged disrespect toward authority. Behind the scenes, the writers confirmed they never intended the show to be purely for kids. The blend of satire and cartoon presentation created confusion about the target audience, which allowed many mature jokes to slip through unnoticed by censors focused on visual content rather than dialogue. Today, The Simpsons is celebrated for its cultural influence, but those early seasons remain controversial for introducing adult storytelling into a medium many assumed was child-friendly. Number 7. Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Various episodes, 1999. Ed, Edd, and Eddy presented itself as a mischievous kids' comedy, yet many episodes contained imagery and humor, surprisingly intense for youngsters. The exaggerated slapstick often crossed into body horror territory, with characters stretching, bending, and deforming in grotesque ways. Some jokes included implications and physical gags that alarmed parents upon rewatching. The premise followed three boys navigating scams, pranks, and chaotic adventures in a cul-de-sac. But the execution often leaned into surreal discomfort. Twisted facial expressions, melting backgrounds, and nightmare sequences became signature traits of the show. Controversy grew as parents began reporting the show gave their children nightmares due to its abrasive visual style. Critics noted how the humor occasionally referenced themes only adults would grasp. The unique animation created content that censors misread as harmless slapstick, even though it bordered on disturbing at times. Behind the scenes, animators revealed that the distorted art style was intentional. They wanted the world to feel chaotic and unfixed, reflecting the boys' unstable, imaginative minds. This approach made the series visually iconic, but also more unsettling than expected. Today, Ed, Edd, and Eddy is remembered as a perfect example of how a cartoon can appear silly on the surface, yet hide surprisingly dark undertones. Number 6. Tom and Jerry Classic. Theatrical shorts, 1940s to 1950s. Tom and Jerry became a staple of children's television despite originally being created for adult theatrical audiences. This led to decades of broadcasts featuring smoking, drinking, violent gags, and scenes that would never pass modern content guidelines. Kids watched characters use explosives, weapons, and dangerous household items with almost no censorship. The premise was simple: a cat chasing a mouse. but the execution included slapstick violence far more extreme than anything in modern kids' programming. Characters were blown up, flattened, electrocuted, and sent flying across rooms. Many shorts also included adult themes, such as gambling and nightlife. Controversy surfaced when modern parents revisited classic episodes and questioned how such material aired during Saturday morning blocks. Scenes of characters harming themselves or others alarmed viewers who assumed all cartoons were meant for children. Networks responded by trimming or banning episodes, yet many unedited versions aired for years without scrutiny. Behind the scenes, MGM animators explained they created the shorts as adult entertainment for cinema-goers. The misunderstanding decades later caused confusion about target audiences and allowed intense violence to slip past censors who relied on visual familiarity rather than looking at content. Tom and Jerry remains beloved yet controversial, serving as one of the clearest examples of cartoons mistakenly treated as children's entertainment despite containing grown-up themes. Number 5. Looney Tunes Pre-Code Classics, 1930 to 1950. Looney Tunes feels timeless, but the earliest decades were filled with content far from child-friendly. These shorts, played in theaters for adult audiences long before television reruns, rebranded them as kids' entertainment. As a result, many scenes involving exaggerated violence, taboo humor, and caricatures slipped into households without proper context. The premise of these classics ranged from slapstick chases to musical parodies, but creators freely incorporated adult settings, smoking, drinking, and risque jokes. Characters used weapons, jumped into dangerous situations, and exchanged dialogue full of layered meaning that young viewers would not understand. Controversy grew when networks aired these shorts uncut during Saturday morning blocks. Parents were stunned to find scenes involving explosions, gunfire, gambling bars, and suggestive gags. Some episodes featured exaggerated stereotypes that would later be banned or heavily edited. Behind the scenes, animators acknowledged they were making entertainment for adults, not children. They never expected these theatrically screened shorts to become bedtime or breakfast hour television decades later. When the reruns exploded in popularity, broadcasters scrambled to censor them, yet many uncensored versions had already shaped generations. Today, early Looney Tunes remain a complicated part of animation history, brilliant in creativity, yet notorious for slipping mature content past modern sensibilities. Number 4. The Flintstones, Early Episodes, 1960s. The Flintstones is often remembered as a wholesome Stone Age family sitcom, but the earliest episodes were filled with grown-up themes that later networks tried to bury. Smoking, gambling, and domestic tension appeared openly because the show originally aired in primetime for adults, not children. The premise follows Fred, Wilma, Barney, and Betty navigating life in Bedrock with plots that mirrored live-action sitcoms. Storylines explored adult frustrations, workplace problems, money issues, and marital spats, far different from the sanitized reruns millennials grew up with. Controversy erupted when the series entered syndication and began airing during children's viewing hours. Parents were surprised to see characters smoking cigarettes, attending nightlife events, and joking about topics that did not belong in a kid's block. Even animated commercials featuring the cast endorsing cigarettes resurfaced and shocked new viewers. Behind the scenes, the creators confirmed they never intended the Flintstones to be purely kid entertainment. It was ABC's experiment at making an animated sitcom for grown-ups, but the shift to family branding decades later created confusion and allowed mature content to slip back into circulation. The Flintstones remains an iconic show, but its first years are still debated for how openly they blended adult life with cartoon storytelling. Number 3. Gargoyles Deadly Force Episode, 1994. Gargoyles pushed the boundaries of animated storytelling, and Deadly Force became its most shocking milestone. Instead of typical cartoon action, the episode confronted the consequences of gun violence in a realistic and emotional way, unusual for a show marketed to younger audiences. The premise centers on Broadway accidentally shooting Elisa after mishandling a firearm. The series portrays the aftermath with haunting seriousness, showing guilt, trauma, and the weight of responsibility. Scenes of Elisa unconscious in a hospital bed stunned viewers who expected lighter superhero-style storytelling. Controversy exploded immediately. Although the message was anti-violence, many felt the imagery was too intense for children. Networks pulled the episode from rotation for years. Critics argued that while brave, it crossed a line rarely attempted in animation at the time. Behind the scenes, creators intended the story to teach caution and accountability. But censors underestimated how emotionally heavy the execution would feel. The result was a powerful narrative overshadowed by backlash from parents unprepared for such stark realism. Today, Deadly Force is praised by fans for its honesty, but remembered as one of the most intense episodes Disney ever allowed to air. Number 2. Batman, the Animated Series. Multiple episodes, 1992. Batman, the animated series, redefined dark storytelling in animation, and many episodes slipped adult-toned content past censors because of their noir aesthetic. Themes like psychological trauma, moral ambiguity, and urban crime appeared regularly even though the series aired during children's programming hours. The premise of each storyline ranged from tragic villain origins to narratives built on loss, emotional pain, and philosophical conflict. Characters grappled with guilt, obsession, and despair in ways rarely attempted in animated shows for young viewers. Controversy rose when parents realized episodes showed realistic weapons, intense fights, and even on-screen deaths. The show's moody lighting and mature tone made it feel closer to adult drama than a kid's cartoon. Some episodes, like Mad Love and Over the Edge, were considered too heavy for their intended audience. Behind the scenes, the creative team pushed for film noir realism, inspired by pulp stories and classic cinema. Censors often missed emotionally complex moments because the visuals remained stylized. This allowed Batman, the Animated Series, to explore themes normally banned in children's blocks. Today, the series is celebrated as groundbreaking, but it stands as one of the clearest examples of adult storytelling disguised as kids' entertainment. Number 1. Adventure Time. Early seasons, 2010. Adventure Time became a global phenomenon, but the early seasons hid surprisingly dark themes beneath their colorful fantasy world. Body horror, emotional trauma, post-apocalyptic landscapes, and existential dread appeared throughout the series, even though it aired as children's programming. The premise follows Finn and Jake on whimsical adventures, yet emotional undertones often revealed a damaged world filled with loneliness, war scars, and surreal transformations. Creatures melted, merged, or mutated in ways that startled parents who expected light-hearted comedy. Controversy intensified when fans online began dissecting symbolism involving lost madness and the remnants of a catastrophic past. Parents questioned why such heavy themes were allowed on air without stronger warnings. Critics noted the show straddled the line between children's fable and psychological storytelling. Behind the scenes, creators confirmed they intentionally inserted adult layered meaning, believing kids could handle more emotional complexity than networks assumed. Their gamble paid off artistically, but led to debates about where the boundaries of children's animation should lie. Adventure Time's early seasons stand as a landmark example of a cartoon that looked child-friendly while carrying hidden depth and darkness that many adults never expected. These 15 cartoons remind us that animation is not always innocent. Some shows slipped past censors, others were misunderstood, and many were never meant for kids to begin with. Rewatching them today reveals the hidden layers that defined a generation. Stay curious and explore more forgotten animated stories.